Hello everyone. In today's video, we are going to talk about top 50 IT technical support interview questions and answers. Myself, Mohammad Zubair, and this channel is all about showing you how to become a highly paid IT pro really fast. So without any further ado, let's get started. Number 1. What do you know and understand about the role of a technical support engineer? Well, the work and duties of the technical support engineers are to monitor and maintain the computers and all the networks of the organization. Sometimes it also includes offering and extending the help to the customers as well. Some of the duties of the technical support are: monitor and maintain systems and network, configure and install the hardware applications and operating systems, log the queries of customers and employees, discover and analyze the underlying issues, perform safety checks, and evaluate the new technologies. Find out and solve the faults and problems related to both hardware and software. Number 2. How do you troubleshoot an issue? Well, this question is meant to check your approach and methodology about how you tackle a problem. Not only that, it will also help them understand your attitude towards the problem and its solution. The first thing should be to get all the facts first, as it will help you find out and identify the problem. Then, you should go through all the necessary steps to solve that problem. Your troubleshooting plan should be adaptable and extensive. Along with all these things, your goal should be to satisfy the customer's need as fast as possible. Number 3. What do you mean by cache memory? Cache memory is the high-speed memory that acts as the buffer between CPU and RAM. The cache memory holds the requested instructions and data to make it immediately available for the CPU when required. It is also used to reduce the time required to access the data from the main memory. When we have a high amount of cache memory, the system's speeds increase. Number 4. What are the different types of DRAM? Explain its usage. While DRAM is a specific type of RAM, DRAM stands for Dynamic Random Access Memory. It is a semiconductor memory that is used for the data or program code that the computer processor needs to function. DRAM is a standard random access memory used in personal computers, servers, and workstations. The different types of DRAM are SRAM, VRAM, SGRAM, DDR, SDRAM, etc. Number 5. What do you know about the jumper and why do we use it? In electronics, especially in computers, a jumper gets used. It is a short length of conductor used to close, open, or bypass the part of an electronic circuit. It is also used to close the electric circuit and change the board's parameter. We also use it for the configuration of the printed circuit boards such as computer motherboards. Number 6. Explain some of the differences between SDK and API. I'll talk about SDK first. SDK is a small kit that possesses tools, libraries, processors, guides, code samples, and other relevant documents that might be needed for creating a software application on and for a specific platform. SDKs are the initial and origin point of almost all the programs that we use today. SDK can contain the API sometimes in it. An SDK is a more significant phenomena that allows us to create beyond the scope of an API. Now let's talk about API. It is an interface and it allows different software to to interact with each other. It can transfer and translate two different instructions sets for mutual understanding. API has different functionality in the World Wide Web, as the Web API facilitates the interaction between the different systems, especially for some specific systems and cases. API comes in many shapes and sizes. For example, in some cases, the copy-pasting needs the API. Number 7. What is a microprocessor and does it have any disadvantages? It is a program control device that we use to retrieve the data instructions from the memory of the system and we decode them. After the decoding, we execute them for further processing. The most significant and most prominent disadvantage of a microprocessor is the limitation we get on the size of the data. It also does not offer the support for the floating point operations. Number 8. What is the use of a latch? The latch is a temporary storage device that gets controlled by the timing signal. It can only store 0 or 1 and it is a D-type flip-flop storage device. Number 9. What do you mean by the OSI model? OSI stands for Open System Interconnection. The OSI model is a conceptual or reference model that characterizes telecommunications or the computing system's communication function. It also specifies how a message or the data will be conveyed between 2 points in the network. OSI model is composed of different layers, and each layer is responsible for providing the service to its above layer. This model was developed in 1984 by the International Organization of Standardization. Number 10. How many layers are there in an OSI model? Name them. Well, we have 7 layers in the OSI model. First one is physical layer. Then comes data link layer. Then we have a network layer. Then comes transport layer. Fifth one is session layer. Then comes the presentation layer. And the last one is application layer. Number 11. Which one is the first layer in the OSI model? Well, this is a tricky question because it all depends on the perspective you are talking to find out the first layer of the OSI model. Let's say you are sending the file or some data. For you, the first layer will be the application layer and the last will be the physical layer. But if you are receiving the data, the application will be the last layer for you and the physical layer will be the first one for you. Number 12. What do you mean and understand by TCP/IP? TCP/IP is a networking protocol and stands for the Transmission Control Protocol on the Internet Protocol. It is composed of the communication protocols used to interconnect network devices over the network using the Internet. We can also say that it is used for connecting the host on the Internet by transferring the data over the networks. It is also used as communication protocol in a private computer network, on the extranet and on the intranet as well. Number 13. What do you mean by ghost imaging? Well, this phenomena is also known as cloning. This imaging is a backup process that is driven by software. It copies the content of the particular hard disk and save it into another server in a set of files on one compressed file, and it is transferred to as an image. When that image is needed, it can change the ghost image again back to its original form. We use this often during the reinstallation or updation of the operating system. Ghost imaging is used for two main purposes. The first one is to quickly restore the system and to allow the system to be cloned on another system. Number 14. Explain some of the pros and cons of using the imaging softwares. First of all, let's talk about pros. Imaging software allows us to create a precise duplicate of the content from one hard disk to another. If our utility has a vast and robust knowledge of the individual partitions of the file system, then it can resize them for many file systems. It allows us to deliver the complex drive images simultaneously to one or many systems over the network. Let's talk about cones. It lacks intimate knowledge of the file system, and that results in copying the hard disk into an image block by block. This process takes a long time in case of having large disks. It offers and supports little recovery from the errors or detection during the deployment and generation of the image. The best or the better imaging software is commercial and it is expensive. Number 15. What do you mean by gateway pertaining to the network? A gateway is a hardware component like we have a firewall, router, server, etc. and we use it as a gateway between the networks. With the help of that gateway, traffic flows across different networks. Gateway also acts as a node on the edge of a network, protecting the other nodes in the network, and all and every type of data goes through the gateway before coming or getting out of the network. Gateway also helps and can translate and transform the data from the outside network into a format or protocol that all the devices in the internal network can work with and understand. Number 16. Discuss some of the advantages and disadvantages of the overclocking. Let's talk about advantages first. Overclocking can offer you better performance with the limited resources. Having the high frequency, it offers and allows a better gaming experience and a fastest response time, and in return, it delivers the better graphic and the increased productivity. Now let's talk about the disadvantages. Overclocking makes the manufacturer's warranty on the CPU void as it compromises the guarantee of the quality provided by the manufacturer. It can increase the temperature of the CPU, so you have to invest a bit in a better cooling system, otherwise the process will damage the processors. Number 17. How many types of firewalls are there? We have 8 types of different firewalls, and they all have differences in their general structure and the way each of them works. First one is next generation firewalls, then comes software firewalls, hardware firewalls, then comes cloud firewalls, then we have packet filtering firewalls, circuit level gateways, proxy firewalls, and the last one is stateful inspection firewalls. Number 18. What do you know about BIOS? Well, the BIOS or basic input and output is found as ROM chip on the motherboard. With the help of it, we can access and set up the system at the most basic level. It also has the information and instructions related to the loading of the basic hardware of the computer. BIOS main functions are as follow. It makes sure that there are no errors in the hardware before the loading of the operating system in the system. It looks for all the available operating systems, then passes the control to the most capable one. Drivers in BIOS provide your system with primary operational control over the system's hardware. The setup of BIOS allows you to configure the hardware settings like date, password, time, etc. Number 19. What do you mean by stack? Can we use ROM as stack? Well, a stack is a part of RAM that is used to save the content of a program counter and general purpose registers. We cannot use ROM as the stack because writing on ROM is impossible. Number 20. What do you know about the Active Directory and what is it? Active Directory authenticates and authorizes every user and system in the Windows to main network, and it also ensures the security of the software and computer. With the help of an Active Directory, various functions can be managed like connecting to printers, connecting to external hard drives, creating the admin, creating users, etc. Number 21. What do you mean by the scope and superscope? Well, the scope consists of an IP address like gateway, IP, DNS server, subnet mask, etc. It is used to communicate with other systems in the network. When we combine two or more scopes, we get the superscope. Number 22. Explain the RAS server. Well, RAS stands for Remote Access Server. It allows us to operate the information and tools that typically resides on the network or on the IT devices through hardware and software. For example, connecting with your office printer. RAS is usually used for the mobile users present in a network, and it uses a telephone line to provide and offer connectivity to its users. With the help of that, we can connect two or more than two offices in the network as well. Number 23. What do you mean by IaaS server? IaaS stands for Internet Authentication Service. For many types of network access like remote access, dial-up, wireless authentication of a switch, etc., they perform accounting and auditing, and it also performs centralized authentication and centralization. Number 24. What fixes to do when the audio is not working? Well, first of all, check for the audio on the computer, then use the headphones. If it works fine with the headphone, then there is a problem with the hardware and built-in speakers. If the problem is not related to the software, then the problem can be related to the hardware. This issue can be because of the software update or the reinstallation of the operating system. Because of these issues, the sound might have stopped working. Try updating the BIOS. In the end, try to check and update the drivers. Number 25. What is the reservation phenomena? Well, the term reservation gets used in the DHCP server. Some network equipments or computer system require a specific IP address. In those cases, we need to make a reservation DHCP server for that particular computer system. Having the reservation gives access to that particular IP address, and at the same time, it also prevents the other computer system from using that particular IP address. Number 26. Differentiate RAM and ROM. Let's talk about RAM first. It stands for Random Access Memory. It is a volatile memory, means data stays there until and unless there is the power supply. It is high-speed memory, and CPU can access the data that is stored in the RAM. Now let's talk about ROM, and it stands for read-only memory. It is non-volatile memory, and this means that the saved data will be there even if there is no power supply. It is slower than RAM, and CPU cannot access the memory from the read-only memory. Number 27. What are the device drivers? Device drivers or hardware drivers are a group of files that enables the hardware devices to transfer the data to the operating system. Without the hardware drivers, the computer will not be able to send or receive the information correctly to the hardware devices. Number 28. What is the difference between 32-bit and 64-bit? 32 and 64-bit is a data transfer size or data transfer rate. 32-bit means that 32-bit of data get transferred at a time, and by 64, we mean to share 64-bit of data. Now we have specialized version of software, drivers, applications, and even the operating system that comes in 32 and 64-bit versions. Number 29. What does it mean by the question mark sign in Device Manager? Well, we have many signs concerning the Device Manager. One of them is the question mark sign. When we get this sign, it specifies that a driver specific to a device is not available in the system, and it acts as a caution message. Number 30. What do you mean by domain name service? Domain name service is also known as DNS. It is a mechanism that is used to convert the computer host name into an IP address. For example, let's say a computer needs to connect to a web server. So, it will require the server's IP address. An IP address is a string of number, and computers do not understand what it means by google.com or facebook.com. So whatever we type in the browser gets converted into numbers, and those numbers get understood by the computer. Number 31. What do you understand by clustering? We know that today's system for daily tasks such as in the home for entertainment, office work, etc. and they are standalone computers and system. But when one or more computer works together and acts as a single system and share their resources, it is known as clustering. There are many benefits. For example, it reduces the load of one system and it shares the load and helps in the redundancy of the services. Number 32. What do you mean by RIS and why do we use RIS? Well, RIS stands for Remote Installation Service, and we use it to install the image from the Windows Server to our new hardware. We also use the RIS because installing the operating system every time using the CD or other bootable media would be more time consuming. It also makes sure that everything that is taking place is authenticated. Number 33. What do you mean by BSOD and how do you troubleshoot it? BSOD means or stands for the blue screen of death. When we face an error or when there is some fault in the operating system or in the hardware, Windows gives the error and cannot run the program on the system, and as a result, it gives the blue screen with the code. To get rid of this problem, the best way is to reboot the system, and in case if it does not work, reboot the system in safe mode. Number 34. What is Bootloader? Well, the bootloader is responsible for loading the operating system into the system. It also enables the booting process and gives the operating system options to the user during the start of the system. For example, let's say you have Ubuntu, Windows and Fedora installed. The bootloader will allow you to boot into one as per your liking and need. Number 35. What challenges do you expect in the IT support job? Well, the answer will determine if you are one such person who looks for the challenges and if you are a perfect fit for the position in the organization. You can answer that you would use your skills and experience in the right manner if you are hired. Also, answer that you are a person who is boosted by the challenges and can face challenges. Number 36. What do you mean by group policy? Well, as the name suggests, it is the policy for all the users in the network. In technical terms, group policy provides the same streamlined access to all the users in the network as it is used to define the network policies and user security. By having and defining the group policy, we can have control over certain functions and permissions like not allowing the user to use the control panels and shut down the systems, etc. Group policy applies to the Active Directory containers like domain, site, and OU. Number 37. Explain LAN and WAN. LAN stands for the Local Area Network. It refers to the connection between the devices in the network which is available and located in small physical locations. It is ideal for small offices and homes. WAN stands for Wide Area Network. It means the connection and communication will occur among the devices available in the large geographical area. Number 38. Why do we use the IPCONFIG command? Well, the IPCONFIG command is used to display the IP address and the gateways of the IP addresses on the computer and know about different information related to the IP. Number 39. What is the difference between RAS and VPN server? Let's talk about RAS first. RAS means Remote Access Server. It is relatively unstable and it is very expensive as compared to VPN. VPN means Virtual Private Network. It is not as expensive as RAS and it is more stable than RAS. Number 40. What are the differences between policies, rights, and permissions? While the term policy gets used on the Active Directories like sites, domains, etc., the term rights gets used for the users and group, and the term permission is used for network resources like printers, folders, files, etc. Number 41. How many classes are there for the IP address and what are their ranges? Well, we have 5 classes of IP addresses and they are aggregated as follow. Class A. It starts from 0 and goes up to 126. Then we have Class B. It starts from 128 and goes for 191. Then in Class C, we have 192 to 223 range. Then for Class D, the range starts from 224 and ends at 239. Then for Class E, we have 240 to 255 range. So these are the 5 classes and their ranges for our IP addresses. Number 42. What are the roles of DC and ADC? DC stands for Domain Controller and ADC stands for Additional Domain Controller. Their operational roles are Schema Master, RID Master, Infrastructure Master, PDC Master, Domain Naming Master. Number 43. Is there any difference between DC and ADC? While there is one main difference between the domain controller and the additional domain controller, in DC we have all operational roles available discussed in the previous question, while in ADC we only have 3 of the operational roles available. Number 44. What do you mean by cookies? Well, the term cookies is referred to the small text file which gets used to keep track of the user's movement and movements on the websites. They are also used to save the user's credentials, preferences, and other related items. Number 45. What is SCSI? SCSI stands for Small Computer System Interface. It is standard electronic interface that allows personal computers to have communications with peripheral hardware like tape drives, disk drives, printers, CD-ROM, etc. In SCSI, we have a fast rate of data transmission. Number 46. What differentiates incremental backup from differential backup? Well, with differential backup, we get only the files that are changed since the last backup, and with the incremental backup, we get the data that has changed since the last backup. Let's have an example to understand it better. Let's say on Friday, you do a backup of 50 text files and each of them is 30 MB in size. The total backup size will be 2000 megabytes. On Monday, you change 2 lines in just one of the text file. With differential backup, only the changed text file will be backed up and the total backup size will be 40 megabyte. If we go with the incremental backup, we'll only be able to back up the data corresponding to those 2 lines, and the total backup size will be just in few bytes. So this is the difference between having differential backup and incremental backup. Number 47. What is the Windows recovery environment and how can you access it? Well, a Windows recovery environment or RE is used to repair the common causes of the unbootable operating system. The Windows recovery environment is based on the Windows pre-installation environment. You can easily customize it with the help of additional drivers, languages, and some optional Windows components. By default, the Windows recovery environment comes pre-installed in Windows 8, 8.1, 10, 11, etc. Go to your setting, then go to your updates, and then go to your security to access it. Then go to your recovery and under the advanced startup options, click on Restart Now and you will access it. Number 48. Differentiate MSI and .exe file. MSI stands for Microsoft Installer. It allows installing, uninstalling, and repairing all the programs with a single file. On the other hand, with .exe file, we need two files to install and uninstall the software. .exe file also detects the existing version of the software and gives an option to the user to uninstall and install the program. At the same time, the MSI will instruct its user to use the remove and add a program in the control panel to remove an existing program from the system first, and then you will be able to install the new system. Number 49. What is ping? Ping is a command that we can use in the command prompt or in a PowerShell. It is used to check the connectivity with the IP address. It is a computer network administration utility that we use to reach a particular host on the internet. It is available for almost all the available operating systems with network capability. Number 50. Why should we hire you? Well, to answer this question, you must present yourself as an asset to the company. You have to make sure that you will be an excellent asset to the company. So tell them what you have accomplished in your career and assure them that you can deliver the results with your hard work, interest, and skills, and some other skills, as you can quickly find solutions to the problems with your experience. Make sure that they realize that you will be a valuable employee for the company. And that was all about the 50 questions that you can consider for your next upcoming interview. And I hope now that you must have learned a lot of new things from this video. If that is the case, please leave a like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. We'll get back to you in the next video. Till then, take care.